And please give a warm welcome to my, I'm, by the way, your host for the evening, Phantom Watson. No, it's too late. It needed to be immediate applause if it's sincere applause. I was clearly prompting that, so it didn't count. You'll have a chance to make up for it later, though. My co-host for the evening is the White Rabbit's own Jason Hoffman. Around there. All right. There's something very important I gotta tell you guys about, and it's gonna take maybe 5 or 10 minutes before the game. I hope you can stick with me. It's something that I learned about recently, and it blew my mind a little bit, and now I wanna blow yours. Really? Your mind. Yeah. And it is about Ghostbusters. Who here is playing Trivia Brawl for the first time? You guys are closest, so I'm gonna pick on you. All right. Two quick trivia questions for you guys right now.
Do I need to write them down?
No.
Okay.
And you answer them with your mouth. All right. What was the name of the Ghostbusters movie?
Ooh, good luck, guys.
Ghostbusters?
I didn't hear it.
Ghostbusters?
It was, in fact, Ghostbusters. Everyone give her a hand. I was supposed to have candies in my pocket for this, but you got a high five. That's your reward. Next question, what was the name of the Ghostbusters television show?
Oh. Is it the Real Ghostbusters?
It is the Real Ghostbusters. I was going to go into this whole thing about Lorenzo Music and Bill Murray. I think everybody knows that. It doesn't matter. All right. Ghostbusters movie. Ghostbusters television show was called The Real Ghostbusters. It came out in 1986, 2 years after the movie. It had a weird name. The Real Ghostbusters. If anything, like, it's the less real, because it's the cartoon version, but whatever, it's fucking weird. It's not actually the only Ghostbusters television show. It was followed in the 90s by something called Extreme Ghostbusters, because it was the 90s, so of course they called it that. And next year we're getting something called Ecto-Force. I don't know, nobody really gives a shit. But we're talking about The Real Ghostbusters. The cartoon that came out in the mid-'80s that dominated the lives of children of that generation of mine. Everyone remembers this, right? This was a big deal. You basically, a line was drawn in the sand on every playground, and you were either a Ghostbusters kid or a Ninja Turtle kid, until the Power Rangers kids started to intrude on our territory. It was a huge deal. It was extremely successful. It made a shitload of money, and they made a shitload of weird toys. You don't get any of the Real Ghostbusters toys. They were all like, there's a librarian and you pull on her arm and like fangs come out of her labia. Like, they were all disturbing and strange. But the point I'm trying to make is, The Real Ghostbusters was the first Ghostbusters television series. The Real Ghostbusters was the first Ghostbusters television series. We're all on board?
Yeah.
We're all wrong! Because it was the third Ghostbusters television series. There were 2 that came before it, but how does this make any sense? How could there be 2 Ghostbusters series before this one that came out 2 years after the movie? Much less 2 series that none of us can remember and we're not familiar with. Well, the answer to this question, I gotta tell you a little story. It starts all the way back in the 1960s. Who remembers a show called F Troop?
I do.
It was set in the Civil War era. It was cowboys and Native Americans. It was maybe the last great, whimsically racist television show produced in the United States. What does F Troop have to do with Ghostbusters? Nothing, absolutely nothing. But look at that guy and that guy. Those 2 actors, a decade after F Troop, went on to star in a television show called The Ghostbusters.
Oh.
Now, that is the correct reaction to this. Now, I understand you might not be shitting your pants with amazement that there was another show that coincidentally had the same name, Ghostbusters. That in itself isn't that crazy. is, and I'm going to explain why. It had pretty much the exact same plot as the Ghostbusters movie. They were paranormal investigators. They went around finding ghosts and murdering them, basically. Yeah, that was basically what they were doing. It was really stupid, and it looked like this.
I'm Spencer. He's Tracy. I'm Carl. We're the Ghostbusters. We're clever, courageous, and strong. The sleep has been haunted with whispers and rattlings. The blood has been...
You really don't need to see the whole thing. It's pretty stupid. And it was only on the air for 3 months. It only took 3 months for people to be like, yeah, we don't need to see any more of that. We've seen that. So it was just a blip. No one remembers it, but it was actually the first Ghostbusters television series. Well, there was one in between them. I mentioned Real Ghostbusters is the third one. I'm going to work my way up to that. When they were making the Ghostbusters movie, they had already finished a significant portion of the movie before they realized that another company called Filmation made that 70s television show and still owned the name Ghostbusters, which was a weird position for them to be in because, okay, Ghostbusters is a weird fucking name for anything to have, and Ghostbusters wasn't even supposed to be the name of this movie. The first draft of it that Dan Aykroyd wrote, Jason, do you know this one?
It's called Ghost Dad.
It was not called Ghost Dad.
I believe it was about his grandpa.
It was, well, the title of it though.
Ghost Grandpa.
Ghost Mashers, The Tale of Ghost Grandpa, I believe was the full title. But it was originally supposed to be called Ghost Mashers, which sounds really stupid, but if you're honest with yourself, isn't any dumber than Ghostbusters. So it was a weird coincidence that the name was changed to be the same name as the television show that was completely disconnected and separate from the movie. So they were making this, they found out Filmation owned the name Ghostbusters. It was too late for them to change the name Ghostbusters because they'd already filmed crowd scenes where people were going, Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters, which doesn't flow as a chant, so it's dumb anyway. So Columbia Pictures, who's making the movie, went to Filmation and they were like, shit, we started making a movie using a name that you have the trademark of, can we work something out? And Filmation's like, oh, you're making a movie called Ghostbusters. It's probably going to be a piece of shit because we're experts on things that are pieces of shit called Ghostbusters. It's probably going to be a flop, but just in case it isn't, we need a portion of the profits. So they struck a deal where the name was sold to them for $500,000 plus 1% of the film's profits. The film went on to make almost $300 million, which was almost 10 times its budget. It was a huge success. So Filmation, imagine what that 1% was for Filmation. Imagine out loud.
$3 million.
Zero. They got no money out of it because if you have a clever accountant, you can make a movie that grosses this much and say on paper it didn't make any profit. And 1% of zero is still zero. So Filmation was fucking pissed because they gave up this name Ghostbusters for this hugely successful movie and they didn't get back the portion of the profits that they were owed. So they went to Columbia Pictures, they're like, okay, well, we kind of got fucked over, but you were clever with your accounting, okay, we'll give that to you. How about this? We'll make this right this way. We can't make live action television series or movies worth of shit, but we can make the fuck out of a cartoon. How about we make your cartoon for you? We'll make a cartoon based on the characters from the Ghostbusters movie. Venkman and Egon and Slimer and all the, whatever the names were. Winston, which by the way, wasn't on, where's Winston in the poster? That's kind of fucked up. Yeah, we don't need the black guy. He's in the background. So anyway, just calling him out. So Columbia Pictures is like, this is a good idea. We should make a cartoon, and you guys should make it for us because we need to market this to kids. We can sell a bunch of toys. The movie wasn't really marketed to kids. Dan Aykroyd got a blowjob from a ghost in the middle. Not a lot of people remember that. Wasn't a kid's movie, but it had the potential to be. So they were like, okay, make our cartoon for us. And Filmation started work on it. They started preliminary production. And then before the deal got finalized, Columbia Pictures was like, oh, we have a little amendment to the deal. How about instead of making our cartoon for us, you eat all our buttholes, because we're going with a different company. Deke is going to make our cartoon for us. And like we said, you can eat our buttholes.
We got deked.
And Filmation, understandably, was like, we don't want to eat your buttholes. We want to make a cartoon and we want to make a whole bunch of money. How would we even, well, like, we would all eat all of your buttholes? Like, wait, how would this, like, logistically, like, everyone in our company would eat at least one butthole in your company, or everyone in our company has to eat all of the buttholes? Like, would we line up like two Little League teams after a game, just like passing each other, so every combination of mouth and butthole gets made? Because we'd much rather make a cartoon. So Columbia Pictures is like, nope, sorry, you don't get the deal, we give it to Deke. But I'm sure Filmation was calling them a different name. So, you don't have the right to do anything with the movie, any of the characters in the movie. All they have is the 70s television show that no one saw and no one gives a shit about. And what do? They make their own fucking cartoon with their own characters from the 70s television show that nobody, especially the children at the time, recognized or knew anything about. And it looked like this. You are welcome to try to find that online without finding any of the legitimate, Ghostbusters stuff.
And one of them was a gorilla because...
Thank you. Let's talk about the gorilla.
Well, in the original 70s television show, the characters were Spencer, Tracy, and Kong. And the one named Kong wasn't the gorilla, it was one of the dudes, because that was the height of comedy for the 3 months in the 70s that the television show was happening. The cartoon, the gorilla's the same gorilla, but the dudes were the sons of the people in the show. Can't believe I'm explaining any of this, because, as goes without saying, none of this fucking matters. So they made their own Ghostbusters cartoon. That is why the cartoon that we know and mandatorily love was called The Real Ghostbusters, because these were being made at the same time. Filmation had already started work when they heard that Columbia Pictures was getting to work on this, and they were like, fuck it, we'll do it at the exact same time. And they were released in the same year. And The Real was code for, fuck you, Filmation, for profiting off of the movie that we made without your help. But Filmation had one final fuck you up their sleeve, which is, by the way, where you keep your fuck yous. Go up here. I got a few myself up there just in case tonight gets dicey. Filmation released their cartoon September 8th, 1986, 5 days before The Real Ghostbusters came out. They scooped them, forcing them to have to distinguish themselves, and making The Real Ghostbusters the third Ghostbusters television series. I rest my case. Welcome to Trivia Brawl.